So hi, my name is Ed. I'm on the mobile QA group at Google. I'm working on a small search-based project that you probably don't interact with. But this is a duh talk. So this is trying to get across an insight that I have that is probably perfectly obvious to everybody else, and it is perfectly obvious to me once you realize it. So sufficiently advanced monitoring is indistinguishable from testing. So here are some basic facts, or basic observations, I guess you should say, that we run across a lot at Google. Complex systems are unpredictable. We've got big data centers running lots of different code and lots of different layers that changes all the time, and some other groups push can break your code, and there's just no way to predict that or really prevent it sometimes. Users, similarly, unpredictable. They do some really crazy things sometimes, either trying to break the systems on purpose or just accidentally, or just act in ways that you didn't anticipate in any way, shape, or form. And the other thing to bear in mind is that a lot of the problems that we really care about only happen in production. If something breaks when it's still in the build cycle, you don't get yelled at, you don't get paged, your manager doesn't dock you promotion points and that sort of thing. But if something breaks in production, it's very visible, you want to fix it very, very fast. And you want to know about it very, very fast. So that means that you inevitably have to end up doing monitoring on your production systems. And of course, page things when people break, and then they go and fix them, and hopefully nobody really notices, because there are lots of failures that aren't complete breaks. But if we have to monitor our production systems anyway, we end up in this kind of silly cycle where we've got all these really thorough regression tests and functional tests that get run at build time, and we ship the code off to the data center, and then we monitor it with these tiny little queries. You log in at one particular user, you just see if the home page is there, and that's it. But we've got all these wonderful tests why aren't we using all these tests in the production system all the time? Instead of logging in as one particular user and just seeing whether the system is up and running at all, why not go ahead and run your tests, one per minute all the time? See if anything fails in production, and just unify these two concepts of monitoring tests and functional tests. So the other thing that you can do is use your users as your monitors. These production systems are running all the time with real data. Hey, every event that's happening on your server is a test case that you didn't have to think of. It's a real test case. It's real data. And it's doing something that you maybe wouldn't have been able to think of yourself, because users do crazy things all the time. And if your monitors that are looking at your servers doing these crazy things to data that you don't necessarily understand are actually trying to validate the state, well, hey, then you can take these interesting monitors and turn them back into a test suite by just simulating user behavior. So you can run these same tests prior to deploying to production servers just by throwing a lot of traffic at them and seeing what your monitors do on the staging server. Very, very nice. So one technique that we found to be very valuable for this is to use the monitors to kind of capture the initial state. What query does the user type into the search box, and then follow that throughout the system, maybe only 1 in 1,000 queries because you don't want to overload the servers, but specifically probe and verify the follow-up states that you expect to happen during this sequence of events. So the thing that I really like about this is that doing tests in this way forces you to be very general. You don't write test cases with one specific input data and one particular expected outcome. That's useful too, but it's much better if you have the ability that tests that can adapt to any sort of weird user input and still be able to validate what a correct result would look like. The other kind of side point to this is that logs are a real untapped resource, at least around here, unfortunately. The local code is spewing messages all the time that we may not really be looking at, and global analysis of logs can follow these events through the system. And just one anecdote, whenever I have deployed a new monitor, I've found a nasty new bugs. And one thing that really helps is that going to your developers and saying, look, this happened on 10% of user queries beats this happened to me. Thank you.